2016. Would you please rise and lead the pledge? There's only one item on our agenda this evening, which is reductions to the Board of Education budget for 2016-17. But I just want to give you sort of the lay of the land of how we're going to conduct the meeting. The first thing that will happen is the superintendent will give us, the board, her recommendations to cut the budget. We've been charged by the Board of Finance to cut $1 million from our ask on the budget side. And so that's what we will be discussing this evening in some detail. This is the first time the board members have received this information, and so they will get an opportunity after the superintendent makes her presentation to have some comment on it, and then we will give the public the opportunity to comment on it as well. We're going to ask you to keep your comments to 2 minutes because there's so many of you who wish to speak on the budget reductions. I would just like to say that as chairman of the board and on behalf of the whole board, I think no one wants to be in this position to make these reductions. All these programs that we're going to talk about reducing are critical to the quality of our education in this community, and no one relishes making these reductions. But we're in very difficult times in the country, at the state level, and here in Bristol as well. We're in a difficult situation. So all we're going to be discussing this evening is really just the $1 million cut that the Board of Finance requested of us. But everybody should be aware that this is a process and not an event. This is not going to be a one-time event this evening. We still probably have more cuts to make in the future. As I've spoken many times in the past, we have a funding gap. All we're talking about tonight is our budget side, but we also have another side. We have some inflation in some categories that are putting great strain on our budget, namely transportation and special education. And so those two programs in particular are stressing us. And so we're going to have to make additional cuts in all likelihood after these $1 million cuts this evening. So all we're going to speak about and focus on tonight is this $1 million. At this point, I turn it over to the superintendent to make her comments and her recommendations to the board.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Good evening, members of the board, and all of you in the audience this evening. I did want to take a minute to make a few comments before I review the list of reductions with the Board of Education. First and foremost, my thank you to the Board of Ed and to all of you seated here tonight. This has been a very difficult process. It continues to challenge us both emotionally and intellectually as we work through it. In fact, it's tantamount to building a plane and flying it at the same time. And we all know from the beginning of this process we've been for a rather rough ride. But we will do whatever we can to get through this with the greatest benefit still directed to the people in this district. So before we run down the list, I want to make a couple of comments directed with that focus. This afternoon, I sent an update to all of the staff and to the board, which really speaks to what's unknown and what's known about this process. The unknown, as Chairman Wilson just alluded to, are possible cuts that we may be facing down the road because costs are escalating and our resources continue to dwindle. But we don't know what that looks like yet. And to try and speculate about what that might be at tonight's meeting is both negative and unproductive. So we want to deal with what is known. What is known is that as a part of the budget development process, working closely with the city, we have committed to $1 million worth of reductions for the 2016-17 budget. So tonight's draft list, and I do stress draft list, is a first blush attempt to create a list of reductions that focuses primarily on staff reductions through attrition and other reductions based on supplies, materials, and ancillary activities that total just over $1 million. In fact, the total is $1.193 million. This is the Board of Education's first look at this list tonight. It is certainly subject to change. In fact, with the volatility of our economy, the volatility of this process, and the figures that continue to change just based upon retirements and resignations that we continue to receive, some of the content of this list is very much subject to change, both short term and longer term. And I'll cover that when I review the list. I mentioned the last time that the Board of Education held a special meeting that some of the positives going forward out of this process are a recognition by me, by staff, and by the board that we need to continue to dialogue with all staff, with the community, and we ask for your input. Suggestions that you continue to provide to us that will help us to create a vision for the future, one that actually allows us to act proactively in a difficult economic environment rather than to react, which is unfortunately where we find ourselves right about now. We will focus on communication and continued communication as best we possibly can with each and every member of the Bristol Public Schools so that everybody remains informed of news to come, and hopefully that news will be good. And I'll end my comments with this. The forecast often calls for rain. In fact, when I checked the Weather Channel this morning, we were supposed to get rain anytime after 5 o'clock this afternoon. I don't know about you, but when I last checked, the sun is still out. So I want to stress that we're hearing a lot about the doom and gloom of the state budget, the impact of the city, and the resulting impact of the Bristol Public Schools. But this is a great school district, and we're going to remain focused on moving forward, on what is great about the district, and we're going to promote the positive, because to stay here long term will not be very productive for any of us. Nonetheless, this is the business of tonight. So I want to review the list for the board ahead, and as Commissioner Wilson mentioned, at that point, after the board has an opportunity to comment and ask questions, there will be opportunity for public comment as well. To start with, through attrition, there are 8 positions identified as those that fall under retirement, totaling $567,545. So with no layoffs required, those provide a substantial amount of the total $1 million reduction. Following that, there are position and program categories identified as follows: collaborative subs, middle school curriculum coordinators, gifted coaches, stipends in the A2, A3 categories, and expulsion coordinator. These reductions in positions and programs total of $388,623, for a sum total of $956,168. Finally, there's an extensive list of other reductions. These other reductions comprise supplies, materials, and other software and hardware needs in the district, but are not personnel related. They include Schoolzilla, Board of Ed warehouse, staff transportation, curriculum stipends, media supplies. Let me go back for a minute. Please disregard Board of Ed warehouse. That was supposed to be removed off the list. Staff transportation, curriculum stipends, media supplies, textbooks, instructional supplies, office supplies, software, equipment, printing and binding, professional development, telephone, more office supplies and printing, business ed supplies, music software and licensing, music equipment, homeless transportation, custodial supplies, high school athletic supplies, and library magazine subscriptions. Under other reductions, the items that I just read, supplies, materials, and software, These are reductions to the total line items, but they are not elimination of total line items. So for example, we would not stand to lose all library magazine subscriptions. These are reductions based on the total amount of the line item. So the reductions under other total $237,500 for a grand total of $1.193668. An important note to make: members of the Board of Education, myself, and other colleagues have received quite a bit of feedback today regarding the possibility of unfunded or unfilled A2 and A3 stipends. I want to highlight that on the bottom of this list there is a footnote that says additional retirements or resignations that we receive in the coming days will allow us to fill A2 and A3 stipends. So what that means is additional loss of staff through attrition, either retirement or resignation, will allow us to fill those stipended positions beginning with the A2 stipends and the A3 stipends. So I think that's important for the board to know as well. I'm optimistic that we will receive certain additional retirements and resignations as we end the school year and as the summer progresses. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Before they do that, I just have one comment. You know, when you get into these discussions, often people want to get into people, and we really can't do that. It would be very unprofessional for us to do that. And it would be against our personnel policy. So when you're talking, I want you just to talk about positions, and if you get into people, I will be a little more firm than I might normally and halt your discussion. So I think it would be best if people would comment initially on the superintendent's recommendation, and then if you want to comment beyond the recommendation, we will do that in the second tier of comments. So I will start with anybody who wishes to comment on what has been presented as the superintendent's recommendations. Ms. Bibber.
Yes, I have a question on the very top category, the 8 positions, FTEs that will not be filled. They're going to be formed by the wayside due to attrition. How will the work that those positions have been doing be done?
Worthy, could you be specific as to what areas they're in? Are they language arts? Are they guidance? Are they specific to the certified staff? Since we've already received those retirements.
These are retirements we've already received.
Yeah.
I can certainly provide the board with that list specific to positions. The retirements that are addressed under position and program, the board has already approved, so there are no new retirements under these.
No, I
These
understand.
are ones that
I'm curious, since they're not going to be replaced, what areas are they in?
we have some opportunity to flex the schedules depending on where our class sizes require additional staffing or not as much staffing going forward, so we do have flexibility. So for example, if we have a certified teaching position at the elementary school level and that's a retirement, even though the position might have been in grade 5, we have the opportunity, if we have fewer sections in grade 2, to provide additional staffing in grade 5. So it's really class size dependent and scheduling dependent. And after tonight, certainly, as the board goes forward with this list, we can certainly come back to you with specific information about how that would look. But tonight, without doing the scheduling, without having the full class size information, I'm not able to answer more specifically than that right now.
You got hijacked with a little Ms.
That's
Bibber,
all
so
right.
I'll let you take
Mr.
your
O'Brien
question
can
again.
hijack all he wants. I'm assuming that all 8 of those positions are not classroom teachers. Obviously, the first one is not, because one of them is listed as a position. Then it says unfilled certified, unfilled non-certified, and then the total. So 7 of them are not, I'm guessing 7 of them are not teachers, or one of them might be a teacher. What about the positions such as the top one, the tech position? Obviously, that person has been very, very busy doing a lot of work. How is that work going to be handled now?
We will have to have discussions about how that work will be redistributed among the remaining tech team in district. We've also had ongoing discussions with the city
I'm looking at the gifted coaches for 36,000, and when I look at the budget, we only spend about 100,000 on the gifted program. Is that in addition to the gifted program, or does that leave us with less than 70,000?
Yes, the gifted coaches support the gifted program. It's not, we would retain the gifted teachers who deliver the instruction. These are coaches that help to support the program.
Or would the program still be able to be delivered without that support?
Yes.
Anybody on this side, other than Mr. O'Brien? Yes, Dave.
Yeah,
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, thank you. The retirees, we have a population, rather large population of teachers who are eligible. Are they being approached, considered, or how many do you anticipate potentially, make their resignation within the next couple of weeks?
We have not had discussions with Bristol Federation of Teachers to date around our teachers who are eligible to retire. I do look forward to having conversations with the Federation of Teachers in Bristol going forward about possibilities for cost savings and creating some opportunities in the future, but we haven't progressed that far yet.
And then my second question was around additional synergies between Board of Ed and the city itself, in terms of maintenance, fields, these are small costs that do add up. I mean, where are we in that process?
We do combine services already in many areas around the operation of plant, both the city and the Board of Education. Certainly we can explore more of those opportunities going forward, but we do share services with the city and they with us in quite a few areas already, particularly snow removal and the maintenance of fields. So we can certainly pursue additional conversations in that area.
Any other comments on the recommendations from the superintendent? Yes, Ms. Dale.
I'm going back now to the A2 and A3. I know you're saying that retirement to maybe able to fill those. What is your projection on how many of those would be filled? I mean, that's a lot of positions, and that's a lot of extracurriculars for students that need to. That's why they come to school. What's your projection on that? What's your feeling on?
It's difficult to predict clearly the number of retirements and resignations that we're actually going to receive. I certainly would be optimistic that we will receive enough of those to go forward and fill the A2 positions, which are the ancillary music positions for elementary, middle school, and high school. And again, we would fill as many of the A3s as we possibly can as well.
I'm sorry about the
It's
A2s,
just
I
difficult.
guess I should say, is the A2s.
Yes, yeah, the A2s would be the first stipend filled as a result of that.
Anybody else have anything else? Ms. Doobie,
I see, and this is something that
make sure we speak up
I'm
because we don't have
sorry,
mics tonight, so
I know,
we
I
have
don't
to
have a mic,
project
I'm
your adult
sure.
voices.
Okay, so for printing and binding, I see that we have a reduction of about $10,000. Is it a possibility within the next few years to try to go completely paperless or much more paperless? Especially correspondence between commissioners and budget books that are this thick and.
Absolutely. In fact, we've made great strides in that direction. If we look back over the last 3 years, even in budgets gone by, those line items have already diminished significantly. So yes, the ultimate goal would be to go paperless. I'm not quite sure in the work that we've done with the city and the budget book, for example, that we're quite ready to go there simply
Right.
because the document's so extensive. But yes, we are definitely making a concerted effort to use less paper and to print fewer documents than we've had to in the past.
Does anybody want to make any comments that are not part of this recommendation regarding reductions?
Well, I would just like to say that I myself, and I'm sure all our colleagues, have some other thoughts that we might want to review prior to a finalization, not particularly tonight. But I would like to make sure that all personnel decisions are referred to the Personnel Committee prior to implementation, including all of the A2, A3, and other positions that aren't going to be filled. And we also have to look at other alternatives, perhaps non-teaching positions that might have to be affected. to offset some of these. So, yes, I think this is a start, but only a start. I think we all have some thoughts on other areas that might be appropriate for reductions as alternatives to these.
Anybody else have any comment? Yes, Commissioner Gillespie.
So I see over here we have textbooks, and we have $3,000. Are those coming from the newly approved AP textbooks?
I don't have that information for you tonight, but I will definitely get that for the board.
I've seen some people walk in, I think after the sign-up, or I made the announcement about the sign-up. We do have a sign-up list right by the camera up here in the front desk. If anybody would like to sign up to speak. At this point, I think we're at the beginning of stages. If someone could hand me the list. Just so you know, our Secretary, Susan Everett, will be timing you. We're going to be relatively firm with the 2-minute time frame because we have so many people who wish to speak this evening. We want to give everybody an opportunity. Yeah, that is a good question. I think the best place would be you could either come and stand or sit in that chair. We call it the speaker's chair that I'm pointing at right there. So the first speaker up is Leah McCabe.
Dr. Solik and members of the Board of Education, my name is Leah McCabe. I live at 349 Ivy Drive. I'm a Bristol resident and a teacher at Bristol Central High School. The Board of Education mission is to maintain a safe and secure learning environment that provides all students with the necessary knowledge and skills to successfully complete college, other post-high school education, or training. I believe wholeheartedly in this mission and have worked for my entire teaching career to support it. To me, that mission means that we educate the whole child, that our jobs as educators is to prepare students for the world outside of our walls. That means that we give students every opportunity to express themselves academically, artistically, and athletically. In one fell swoop, one push of the mouse, one click of the send button today, our ability as educators to fully prepare students may have been taken away. I fully understand that budget issues are tricky and that no one ever gets exactly what they want. But today's proposed budget cuts are not just stipends. They are not just numbers on a sheet. Today's cuts are programmatic. Today we cut literacy instruction, intervention, and coaching. Today we cut musical groups. Today we cut a message to our students, to their parents, and to the teachers that education takes place within the confines of a school day. I don't believe that this is true, nor do I believe that you think that it is. I have seen you and other members of the Board of Education cheering for our athletic teams and enjoying our performances on stage. Some of that may have been very well ended today. Yes, teachers receive stipends to instruct, conduct, and coordinate, but I can tell you from personal experience that the small stipends many of us earn do not even begin to account for the work we put into our activities. Despite the many cuts that took place this afternoon, none has hurt me more than that of AVID coordinator. Please believe me when I say that this is not the money that I will miss most, though of course that hurts. That cut, along with other recent events, has led me to believe that the AVID program itself is on the chopping block. AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination at BCHS, is not just a program. We are a family who makes real differences in each other's lives and our community. This year will be the first graduating class of AVID students at BC. All 10 seniors will be attending college in the fall. Many of them have been accepted at multiple colleges. They have received over $150,000 in grants. And I hope...
10-second warning.
Thank you. I'll submit this.
Thank you.
This program and these students, and many of them are here tonight to speak, have changed my career and my life. They are my kids, and I will continue to fight for them and work hard for them. However, I also know that my colleagues and I cannot work for free. These stipends were an acknowledgement that many of our hours spent from our own families were valued, and I hope that you will reconsider that position.
Thank you. If anybody like Ms. McCabe has, and Mrs. McCabe, I'm not sure which you are, has comments written and prepared like that, if you'll give them to the board secretary, she'll make sure that all the board members receive them. Next up is McKenna Akampora.
Good evening. My name is McKenna Ann Akampora. As a 6th grade student of Chippens Hill Middle School, who was involved in most of the programs you are proposing to cut for the 2016-17 school year, I am shocked and disappointed that adults that are on the school board will make a seemingly uneducated decision. Students are the future, the tomorrow. Making these cuts will not only ruin their tomorrow, but tomorrow's growth of the city of Bristol. From what I have learned from my teachers, especially Alan Theriot, teacher of Talented and Gifted, you develop a question, then a hypothesis, then examine and test the variables. I challenge you to look at the other variables, like unnecessary expense cost-cutting initiatives. Before you cut my variables, like my education, think to the future of me and other students.
The next speaker is T.J. Conroy Akampora.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Succinctly, again, my name is Teresa Jo Conroy Akampora. I have the fortune, or today the misfortune, of having 4 children at different levels within the Bristol school system. Bring me solutions. Do not bring me problems. It's an old adage from my former background as an executive vice president for a major manufacturing company, despite my appearance. John Womack, lean thinking. Are any of you familiar with him? He's got a PhD from MIT. Have any of you, and I challenge the board, to investigate some of the outside mannerisms, mechanisms, and resources that this gentleman has implemented to save Ford Motor Company in 1972, Toyota, and other major corporations. Why cannot we, the City of Bristol, the Board of Education, implement tried and true practices and principles? A 20% mandatory pay cut for anyone at the manager or director level of the Board of Education. It worked in the private sector. Companies. It can save these programs for our children. I believe our children are far worth a 20% pay cut within this building. Excess, duplication, triplication of efforts, redundancies, old school thinking and technology in the manner in which we conduct our business. Secretaries, a thing of the past. Secretarial pools, even more a thing of the past. Let's bring it up at least to the year 2000. Implement these tried, true practices and theories. Look within your house before you look elsewhere and make cuts that will affect the future of our children. Our children are the foundation. Physics 101, a poor foundation cracks under pressure. Thank you.
Matthew Gerard.
Hi, my name is Matthew Gerard and I'm a sophomore at Bristol Eastern High. I would like to start by saying that school music has been a positive, formative influence on my life. There have been cuts made to the music department before, but not permanent cuts to other extracurricular activity, like athletics. There haven't been any cuts towards athletics showing the ever so obvious and unfair favoritism of athletics over music and theatrical arts, which is sad. Your proposed cuts include ending after-school choral programs like the renowned Strawberry Fields, who have performed on live television bringing positive attention to Bristol, as well as the award-winning Madrigals Choir.